are women allowed to vote?
Oh, of course they are.
Who's voting that patriarchy in then, out of curiosity?
No, I totally agree. And you want to know why? Because there are so many women who think like you. You submit to the idea of men ruling everything. And your ideology is spread across a lot of women who also falsely believe to vote against their own interests just to complain about it in the end. You know, earlier you said that, women would be much more happier working at home, but don't you agree that it's human nature to want things that you don't have? Mm-hmm. So during the 1950s, which is something that you constantly bring up, it wasn't until 1994 that it was legally illegal to beat your wife. And so what we're dealing with is people wanting something, and then when they get it, they're not happy with it, and then they have to revoke that idea for something else. And so what you're saying is that women vote for these things because they have the same mentality as you.
Okay. So you're acknowledging that women have the freedom to vote.
Yes.
And you're saying that women are still existing mentally, even with the freedom to vote.
Correct.
They are voting men in because we are still victims of...
No, I don't believe in victimhood. I believe in lack of education and lack of knowledge, because one of the things that you also say...
Do you think that it could just be that more men are running for positions of office?
No, not necessarily. Because remember, the United States, the average reading comprehension of people in the United States is 6th grade. So we're not dealing with educated people. Lack of education is the cause for what we see in the world. And if we educate the women better, because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. And if she reading and comprehending at a 6th grade level and popping out a lot of kids, because the brokest people in the world pop out the most kids. So if we have those people voting, of course they're going to vote against their interests, because they're voting for some utopian society that will never exist.
Okay, so that's why you think Kamala lost.
This ain't even about Kamala.
Because you're talking about women. No, but we had an opportunity.
Yeah, go ahead.
We had a male running and we had a female running. And we actually showed that Trump increased the amount of women who voted for him, right? So I'm asking you, do you believe that the reason that happened was because women became less educated during that time?
They've always been less educated. Did you know that UNESCO says that that 2/3 of the 7.7 million illiterate adults is women? Illiterate. And we have 6th grade educated people voting. And guess who? Guess the dominant population is white women. And so guess what? Now you have to add a race element into that, which you already know exists, because we as black folks, we ain't the dominant people voting people in. Okay, so now when we have to go into white supremacy and feminism, now you have to look at the mind of the people who actually have economic success and what they're voting for, because classism actually matters as well. So I'm sorry, but a lot of people vote based on their feelings and not based on policy.
All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Are women voting against their own interests, or do they simply have different values?
The woman that was speaking, she's a trip, because she's morphing herself into the exact thing that she says is the patriarchy. She's looking more masculine.
She's a lesbian. Sorry to interrupt you, but if you follow Queenmaker's story, she's been on a lot of podcasts essentially telling women about the reality of men, and essentially advocates for women to walk away from men like she did.
Yeah, she's just, everything she said, she contradicted herself. Like literally, she made not one point, to the point where Candace is like, I don't even know how to even talk to you, because you're arguing your own statement. You just called women stupid. Then you're saying women are superior. I'm like, which one is it? Are they superior or they're dumb? Like, this lady is just super annoying.
Hello.
You know what I'm saying? So to answer your question, JR, are women voting against their own interests? No. Women are voting for the men that they know run the world. And whatever man speaks to what they value, they will vote for it. Because women naturally understand that I don't have the strength or the power to do nothing. I have influence, but there's nothing I can do to really, I have to go find a group of men that believe in what I believe and then convince them to push my agenda. So women are voting based on that. Because even if a woman won, she still has to go. The army is going to be fully men. So even her strength on a military level will be men, which is where a nation is really built on influence and their military. So even if a female president won the election, so what? She got to go grab a bunch of dudes to go fight wars. So it don't really matter. So women just vote based on that. So I think that woman is just silly, and she contradicted herself like 5 times in one freaking situation. She thinks she sounds super smart, but she sounds dumb. And she's literally trying to become a man. It's like
I
crazy.
gotta add to that too, because the thing that was crazy to me is if you listen to the beginning when she jumped in, she literally said she blamed men and she said, "Well, it's because of men because that women's reproductive rights are being taken away." Because she specifically said women wouldn't vote against their own interests. And then now later, as you progress through it, she says, "Well, why are women voting that way? Because there's a bunch of women that think like you." And then she ends up saying, after she says there's a bunch of women that think like you, she then blames it on white women and says that they're uneducated. So essentially, it's like her argument keeps shifting. First, she's blaming men for controlling women through the vote, but then she's saying that it's women who are voting for their own destruction because they're uneducated. But at the same time, she started by saying women wouldn't vote for against their own reproductive rights. So it's so just the fact that she contradicts her own argument, that should tell you that everything she's saying is nonsense.
And on top of it, I think a lot of modern politicians negate the fact that a lot of women are fulfilled by family, or at least they need more support. And voting for the right to abort your child doesn't really align with the average American woman's interests. Maybe she wants more support, more education, more safety in her neighborhood. And a lot of modern politicians do not advocate for that. In fact, they advocate for aborting your children, or they look down on mothers. So them, I think the queen is missing the point that a lot of women are still very much fulfilled by family and motherhood, and there aren't any politicians, or at least feminist politicians, that are like, hey, we're going to give you $1,000 for each kid like Donald Trump did. Right? So again, it's, I think modern women, modern feminists are forgetting what the average American woman actually is truly fulfilled by. And they're not voting against their own interests. They're actually voting in alignment with the politicians that like speak to them.